The Arthur Greenberg Undergraduate Curatorial Fellowship is a program here run through the Kemper Art Museum, and it was established by Jim Cohen, who was an alum from Washington University, and he was a student here and graduated in the early 1980s along with his fellow student named Arthur Greenberg. So he established this endowment for this fellowship in honor of his friend. It's a competitive program where undergraduate art history majors, they apply with an exhibition idea. And if they're chosen, then they get to realize the exhibition along with an exhibition brochure. And this year's cohort of students are 3 students who are all art history majors. Their names are Lydia McKelvey, Alice Nguyen, and Hannah Ward.
Women's work, it's about women's labor, but it's also about women's relationships with labor, how that interacts with their interpersonal lives, with their family lives, but also how their labor is placed within a broader social and political context. So we look at women's labor over the last 300 years throughout the UK, the US, and France, tracking it specifically through women's political movements and how labor and politics is interacting in art and in personal life. I think one thing that really stood out to us as we were researching this history of labor is just how much is changing broadly, socially and politically throughout these different time periods and contexts, but how much is staying the same for women and their work. It's really remarkable actually how much of the concerns of first wave feminism still become the concerns of second wave feminism, are still the concerns now. It's really, almost a cycle of repeated interests that are being explored and that are in conversation with art and with politics and with people's everyday lives. So that's why we decided to organize the exhibition thematically as opposed to chronologically, because we thought it was really remarkable how these pieces were speaking to each other across social, political contexts, but also across time periods.
There's 3 sections to the exhibition. They're agency, equity, and performance. Now, the majority of the artworks do come from the permanent collection, and there's some key works that the students were originally inspired the idea for the show. But they were able to get a whole range of interesting loans from the St. Louis Art Museum, from the Modern Graphic History Library, which is housed in special collections here at Washington University. They also have a work from the Missouri Historical Society. And there's works from a little further afield, including the Smart Museum at the University of Chicago and the Cranard Art Museum at the University of Illinois.
My favorite piece in the exhibition is Hogarth's A Harlot's Progress. It's the earliest piece in the exhibition in the 1730s. Of course, I think every piece in the exhibition tells a story, but this one is specifically designed to be a narrative. It's a series of 6 panels. We're only showing the first and the third, but the story follows the narrative of a young woman named Moll who comes from the countryside to contemporary London, and she is basically entrapped into becoming a sex worker. Hogarth, he was a popular printmaker in London at this time period, and he made a lot of prints that dealt with these kind of narratives of anxieties about modern life, about the emerging urban social order. Sex work, that was a huge part of women's labor. 1 in every 5 women at this time period made their living doing that kind of work in London. We wanted to include it because we wanted to think about how a narrative is being constructed, literally a narrative, but also a broader social narrative is being constructed around this type of female feminized labor that is definitely not privileged. It's a labor that is unlawful. It's a labor that's not particularly safe.
In normal years, this would be a very hands-on exhibition. The students would spend an entire summer, working in the offices at the Kemper, having one-on-one experiences with the artworks. This year, they weren't able to do any of that. The entire program really was held online and through meetings on Zoom, it's really hard to curate an exhibition that way. But they did come through, and I think it's really just a testament to how enthusiastic the students were, how committed they were to this project, and I really want to congratulate them for an excellent outcome. Unfortunately, the Kemper Art Museum is still only open to the campus community. We are not open to the general public. The students also did create an excellent exhibition brochure that has illustrations of every work in the gallery along with the full checklist, and that's also available through the museum's website as a PDF for download.